I used to believe in second chances, that people changed, that effort mattered, that love could be restored if you just tried hard enough. I don't believe that anymore. Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. Not after what Daniel did to me. We were married for 12 years. I was there when he got his acceptance letter to med school. I celebrated with him in our cramped kitchen over instant noodles and champagne. I worked 2 jobs back then. Clinic receptionist by day, night shift at a hotel by night. And while he studied for exams and slept through mornings, I folded towels, filled ice machines, and dealt with drunk conference guests who couldn't remember their room number. Sacrificed. Happily at first. Because that's what love is, right? Until love became something I owed him. Until my support became invisible. Until I wasn't a partner. Just the woman who kept the fridge full. It was late. Past 1 a.m. I was working the hotel's front desk. Half asleep, half wired on vending machine coffee. I remember the man staggering into the lobby. Drenched in sweat, clutching his chest. No ID. No room key. Just panic. He collapsed at my feet. I screamed for help and started chest compressions. No hesitation. I remember the cold tile against my knees. I remember yelling, "Call 911," while my hands pressed down over and over again. I don't know how long it took before the paramedics came. But when they did, they said I saved his life. He came back a week later. Cleaned up. Wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than my rent. He asked for me by name. Said thank you. And handed me something. Room key. To one of the private suites. Inside was a note and a check for $10,000. I never cashed it. I never even opened the note. I locked them both in a drawer and forgot about it. I didn't want money for doing the right thing. I had Daniel. I had our marriage. I had loyalty. But what I didn't realize was, I had nothing. Started with subtle shifts. He stopped asking me about my day. Stopped waiting for me to eat dinner. Started texting more at night. Whispering during calls. When I asked who he was messaging, he laughed. "You're paranoid, Maya." When I asked if he still loved me, he sighed. "You're too sensitive." When I found the hotel receipt, a different hotel, he said, "We're not doing this now." He didn't even try to deny it. And when I packed my bags, sobbing on our bedroom floor, he looked me dead in the eyes and said the words that would haunt me for months. "You're lucky I ever wanted you, Maya. No one else will. Not after this. You're used up." I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even cry. Just stood. And remembered the hotel key in the drawer. He filed a week later. The petition was cold. Efficient. He wanted the house. The savings. My car. No alimony. No discussion. He walked into our local courthouse like he was closing a business deal. And I knew then. He didn't just want to leave me. He wanted to ruin me. To make sure I left the marriage feeling like I was nothing without him. So I made a choice. I flew to the city where the hotel guest had given me the key. I checked into the same hotel. Suite 810. The envelope was still in the drawer. Opened it. Inside, a handwritten note. "If you ever need help, real help, bring this to the tower. My name is on the 61st floor. Don't knock. Just walk in. AG." I didn't know what tower meant, but I googled his initials. And suddenly I couldn't breathe. AG wasn't just some rich hotel guest. He was Aidan Grayson, founder of Grayson Capital. Net worth over $6 billion. The man I'd once given CPR to in a polyester hotel uniform. It took all my courage to walk into that building. I wore the best thing I had. A navy dress I'd saved for interviews. Hair pulled back. Shoulders squared. No makeup. No tears. So, the elevator ride to the 61st floor felt like rising into a new life. The receptionist didn't ask for my name. She just nodded. "He's been expecting you." Thought it was a joke. But then the doors opened and there he was. Older. Wiser. Alive. "Hello, Maya," he said. "I was hoping I'd see you again someday." We talked for 2 hours. About Daniel. about everything. And when I told him I didn't want money, just clarity, he didn't flinch. Instead, he offered me something else. Job. Not charity, he said. I need someone I trust. Someone with guts. You saved my life. Let me repay the favor. I became his executive operations assistant. Flew with him to meetings. Learned finance. Learned silence. Learned power. Over the next 9 months, I rebuilt everything Daniel had stripped from me. My confidence. My independence. My identity. And somewhere between Shanghai and Sao Paulo, something changed between us. We started sharing more than strategy. We started making plans. Together. I showed up to court exactly 9 months after the day he told me no one would ever want me again. Daniel was already there. Confident. Sitting beside his lawyer, twirling a pen like he was at a job interview. He didn't even look at me until the doors opened behind me, and Aiden walked in, flanked by 2 attorneys and a personal assistant. His hand on the small of my back. Purposeful. Daniel froze. Who the hell is that? My fiancé, I said softly. He blinked like he hadn't heard me right. You're what? I didn't repeat it. I just walked past him and sat down. Aiden stayed close but silent, placing a soft hand on my shoulder for a moment before taking his seat behind me with his legal team. He didn't need to say a word. His presence said everything. Daniel shifted uncomfortably in his chair. His confidence evaporated the second Aiden entered that courtroom. He tried to recover, straightening his back, cracking his knuckles, putting on that same patronizing smirk he used to wear when lecturing me about how much I owed him for taking care of me. The judge arrived. A tall, no-nonsense woman with a firm gaze. She read through the standard opening remarks while I kept my eyes on the table, barely listening. My hands were calm. My heart wasn't. It wasn't fear, it was something else. Anticipation. When the judge asked if we were ready to proceed, Daniel's lawyer stood up with all the self-importance of a man who expected an easy win. Your Honor, my client is seeking an uncontested divorce. There are no minor children. We are requesting full ownership of the marital property and joint savings, as these were acquired primarily through my client's income during the marriage. He said it so cleanly, so casually, like I had never existed. Like my years of night shifts, medical bills paid out of pocket, homemade meals on study nights, and sacrifices were all just dust. The judge nodded slowly, flipping through the papers. Mrs. Reyes, do you have any objections to this request? I stood up. My voice was calm. I do. Daniel's head snapped toward me. I took a breath, then turned slightly and gave a small nod to Aiden's lead counsel. She stood. She didn't speak right away. Just walked up to the bench with a thick folder and placed it gently in front of the judge. These are supplemental financial disclosures, Your Honor, as well as a countersuit for asset distribution based on Mrs. Reyes's non-monetary contributions to her husband's career and lifestyle. Daniel's lawyer looked confused. I wasn't aware of any countersuit. Because you assumed she'd show up alone. That one line silenced the room. Even the court clerk's eyebrows lifted. The judge flipped through the papers, pausing. Is this? Yes, Your Honor, the lawyer continued. That is a job contract from Grayson Capital, dated 4 months after the parties separated. Mrs. Reyes has been gainfully employed in an executive capacity with full compensation, benefits, and equity. Furthermore, we are presenting a list of unpaid contributions during the marriage that significantly supported Mr. Reyes's education, medical training, and career advancement. Daniel's face changed. Gone was the smirk. In its place, disbelief. And maybe a touch of fear. He leaned over to his lawyer and whispered urgently. I watched them scramble to understand what was happening. I sat back down slowly, hands folded in my lap. I didn't even need to look at Daniel. I could feel his panic vibrating through the floor. The judge looked up. Mr. Reyes, do you contest any of these disclosures? His lawyer stood again, flustered. Your Honor, we'd request a continuance to review. No need. I said quietly, standing again. I have nothing to hide. The judge studied me. Then she turned back to Daniel. Mr. Reyes. He hesitated. For the first time in a long time, he looked lost. Like the floor he'd been walking on had suddenly shifted beneath him. I wasn't aware of any of this. Obviously, the judge replied deadpan. But ignorance is not a legal strategy. Aiden stayed silent the entire time. He didn't need to speak. He'd already spoken loud enough by being there, by holding my hand in the hallway, by placing his name next to mine on those documents. He wasn't there to fight Daniel. He was there to show me I didn't have to fight alone anymore. The hearing wrapped up in just under an hour. The judge ordered a full review of marital contributions and earnings, along with a temporary freeze on joint accounts and properties pending final distribution. Daniel's lawyer asked for recess. His voice cracked when he did. When the gavel finally struck the wood, signaling the end of the hearing, I stood. My legs were steady. My heart felt like steel. Daniel tried to speak to me on the way out. Tried to pull me aside, whisper something. Probably some last-ditch attempt to salvage control. I didn't stop. I didn't even look at him. I walked right past him, out into the sunlit courthouse steps, where a black car waited for Aiden and me. As the door closed behind us, I exhaled for the first time in months. He reached over and gently took my hand. You okay? I looked at him and smiled. Not the smile I used to fake during the worst years of my marriage. Real one. One that reached the corners of my eyes. I think I finally am. That would have been enough. That would have been the perfect ending. But the story wasn't over. Not yet. Because the next week, something arrived in the mail that would change everything. Letter. From Daniel's mistress. I almost didn't open it. It was a plain white envelope, handwritten, with no return address. But the second I saw her name on the corner, Lena, I knew exactly who it was from. The mistress. Daniel's secret woman. The one he'd whispered with late at night. The one whose perfume lingered on his shirts when he claimed to be working late. The one he'd thought would stay in the shadows forever. I stared at it for a long time, standing over the kitchen counter in Aiden's penthouse. We had just returned from Geneva the day before. My suitcase was still zipped shut. My hair still smelled like hotel shampoo. And yet, this envelope suddenly brought all of it. Everything I thought I'd escaped, rushing back. Opened it. Not out of curiosity. Not for closure. I opened it because I needed to know if there was still one more war to fight. The letter wasn't what I expected. It wasn't smug. It wasn't cruel. It was apologetic. Dear Maya, I don't know where to begin. I don't expect you to forgive me, and frankly, I wouldn't blame you if you never even read this. But if you do, I need you to know. I didn't know the full story. Daniel told me you were cold, controlling, that you drained him emotionally and financially. He said you were bitter about his success, that he stayed only because he felt guilty leaving you with nothing. I believed him. I believed every lie. But last week I saw the court documents. I saw your employment contract. I saw the summary of your contributions to his education, your jobs, the years you worked night shifts while he studied. And Maya, I felt sick. He never told me any of it. Not once. I thought I was rescuing him from a toxic marriage. I didn't realize I was just the next placeholder. He's been texting me again, asking if I'll move in with him. Pretending like none of this ever happened. Said no. Sorry. For my part in your pain. Truly am. Lena. I folded the letter slowly. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. It didn't sting the way I thought it would. Not anymore. I didn't feel rage. Or satisfaction. Just peace. Later that night I showed it to Aiden. He read it carefully, then passed it back to me wordlessly. You okay? He asked, as he always did. He nodded. She didn't hurt me. He did. But now. I held up the letter, then tossed it into the fireplace. He doesn't get to. The flames curled around the paper until it was nothing but ash. A week later, the court finalized our divorce settlement. The judge awarded me half of everything, including Daniel's prized lake house, which he had listed under a Shell LLC, thinking I wouldn't notice. But my legal team had found it. His smirk didn't make another appearance after that. He tried to appeal. He lost. He tried to discredit me online. His comments were buried under thousands of people praising the quiet power of a woman who stood tall in court, flanked by her fiancé, the billionaire she saved when she thought she was invisible. They turned it into a news story. Ex-wife of surgeon stuns courtroom with surprise fiancé. The billionaire she once saved from cardiac arrest. Aiden hated the headlines. I didn't. For once, I wasn't the background. I wasn't the support character in someone else's story. I wasn't the one who sacrificed, then disappeared. I was the main event. A few months later, we got married on a quiet hillside overlooking Lake Como. No press, no extravagance, just close friends, a violinist, and two people who had walked through fire and still chose to love. Aiden never brought up Daniel again. But on our wedding day, as he took my hands in his and whispered his vows, he ended with one sentence I'll never forget. The night you saved me, Maya, I thought it was just my life you saved. But you gave me a reason to live it better. Sometimes I wonder if Daniel ever thinks about me, about what he lost. But I don't dwell on it, because I didn't just walk away from that courthouse. I walked into a life I built with my own hands, with my heart wide open. And I will never ever let someone tell me again that I'm not wanted. 'Cause now I know, I was never unwanted. I was just waiting for someone who could see me. And now I'm finally home. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.